Role-playing games on mobile devices do really go a long way, be it some good old classic, realistic ones, hack and slashers, and of course, MMORPGs. We've got a massive batch of these games. In fact, October was filled to the brim with new games. That's it. I'm gonna be showing you about 25 of some of the biggest role-playing games out there, either in development right now or out and ready to go for your Android and iOS devices as well. Let's go. At number 1, and this is just a quick mention, why? Because this game technically doesn't even exist yet, except in China, not even on TapTap, but set to be released very soon. Guys, we've got something here called Project Reborn. This is an MMORPG hack and slasher and a mobile exclusive from Narcs Games, what seems to be a lot in the same vein as the recently released Tower of Fantasy, but it is a little bit more cel-shaded. Check it out, make sure to stay tuned for that precise release date. Summoner's War Chronicles, on the other hand, is a MMO gacha style role-playing game, not even a turn-based, but a real-time action RPG and pretty much an open world to some extent. This one's gameplay is pretty similar to Genshin Impact, so the rest is just history. I do believe a beta for the game is being held at the moment, and the full game releases for iOS and Android sometime in December. Blade Reaction, on the other hand, sitting on the blue stacks at the moment, mainly because it is still in full development stage for the mobile devices, I would say is perhaps one of the biggest and most realistic action role-playing games in the same style of Diablo, albeit it is even more rewarding, more free, and more action-packed. Check it out, this game's set to be released in its full for both platforms by the end of the year, and this is actual gameplay.
저리 가! 죽음은 길시다! 견딜 수 없을 거야! 각오해라!
Coming up behind that, we've got Chronicle of Infinity. Technically, what happens when 100 plus PvP, well, precisely 150 players PvP, meets the Battle Royale element with role-playing stuff. I will say, if you do like science fiction stories, aesthetically this game goes beyond any expectations in a lot of ways, be it the graphics, the gameplay, the characters, and more. Gameplay, however, is basically made of hack and slash, and it's got a pretty good story on top as well. It's pretty easy, and it is also free. At number 5, we've got Animus Revenant. This has to be one of the most expensive, first, yet most underrated action RPGs of the whole year. In fact, it's in my opinion well worth the price. I would just say it could be a little longer. But this is a definition of a Souls-like Diablo-inspired action RPG with some real good visuals, even though I've actually read some reviews that is really bad. But the gameplay is pretty smooth and constantly getting gameplay fixes since September when the game was basically released. So check this one out. At number 6, we've got a pretty decent Diablo clone, once again, from no more than a couple of months ago, going by the name Dark Throne. Well, this has to be one of the even more underrated games of this whole year. Why? Because it's only downloaded about 1,000 times since release, and it is actually free all the way. I mean, it could use a little bit more gameplay adjustments, but for a free game, it's quite fine. And if you do like Diablo, but not much the recently released Immortal, make sure to check this one as well. At number 7, we've got Dark Bind or Bind, an ARPG by the old NetEase masters. Some true next generation graphics, mobile game with a pretty diverse character customization options and a nice bit of roster to just choose from. This is, as you can see, a Souls-like hack and slasher, much in the same vein as Project Raven Grey, albeit it is even more skill-based and pretty bigger in its world. Check it out, this game also does have a PvP multiplayer section. At number 8, and to be frank, I've actually been waiting for the right moment to talk about this one. We've got this style. This is a strategy group battle game, kind of similar to Final Fantasy in terms of just overall role-playing game mechanics and level up systems. Let me just say, if you don't even like turn-based role-playing games, this is the type of game that you do really need to play to be sure. The game is pretty fun, pretty good for casual players as well. The storyline is very good. Dynasty Legends 2, on the other hand, is now perhaps the most important Musou-style action RPG on the entire platform when it comes to like actual replay value. Honestly, if there is a single thing you do enjoy about Musou-style games like Dynasty or the Samurai Warriors to this day, pick this one up right now and don't even think twice. There's a problem though, the game will take you down for 4 GB of space and it could get buggy depending on your device.
Another one? You'll die here today!
At number 10, we've got ETE, or just ETE Chronicles. Now, I'm not really sure when this one will do at its full version, but nonetheless, this is actually one of the better action RPG futuristic mixes of 2022 so far. It's basically what you'd get by mixing Gundam games with a little bit of Persona Stripe, or just some team-based hack and slashers, or maybe even a little bit of Final Fantasy even. In any case, this is how the game really looks, and it is available for pre-register on TapTap as well. Coming from the same developers of Zainless Zone Zero, we've got also Honkai Star Rail, something very much in the same vein as Genshin Impact. This is a turn-based strategy RPG as well, and personally speaking, I would say it reminds me a little bit of Tales of Arise, which is a console game. Honkai is apparently a more story-heavy game, and with a linear gameplay style, it is said to be released fully in about a month, and it's going to be coming to Android and iOS devices as well. Listen, Equinox 2436, or as it is preferred to in other regions, Project 2436, is a turn-based kind of tactics mixed with role-playing games, but not like the classics, instead with a bit of a more cinematic approach. I'm not sure if you could remember or anybody even knows about this, but it is a lot in the same vein as Dynasty Tactics. Check it out. There's one problem here. Game's not out yet in Western regions, but it is said to be coming over by the end of the year. Coming up behind that, we've got Tower of Fantasy, which is sitting on the place with over 5 million online players since only a couple of months ago. As an online role-playing, technically open world or MMORPG, and a PvP-focused one, sit 100 years into the future and in a different timeline from ours in terms of story. Well, check it out, this game is pretty similar to Genshin Impact in core gameplay, except it is getting more updates and more content, and it is quite a bit fine-tuned and visually really good. At number 14, we've got Injustice Samurai. This is another hit MMORPG by the same old developers, where you play as a samurai during the Tang Dynasty. Your objective is to just mainly finish quests by taking down hordes of enemies at once, online. The game is not quite available worldwide still, although available to download using the link in the description, and actually quite fine-tuning gameplay as well. From earlier March this year, we've got Oath of Peak, a fantasy genre MMORPG set in an extraordinary oriental world with a heavy emphasis on co-op and team play mechanics. Now, Oath of Peak is in fact in its final stages of development, full development. It is actually a lot like the first game I mentioned in the list, Project Reborn, and quite fine-tuned as I've gathered throughout the beta, eventually coming out, in case you're interested, by the end of the month. Alright guys, now, Punishing Raven Grey on the other hand, which is technically speaking just a AAA when it comes to the mobile ports as a whole, well, has been around since July last year, downloaded over 1 million times with very good reviews as well. Well, 1 million times only because this game is the type that not just any phone could really handle the graphics. In any case though, check it out. This is an action RPG a lot in the same vein of Nier games or Nier games, whatever you call it, hence a resemblance, and it's taking it down for 2 GB of space. Number 17, we've got Rakshasa Street Mobile. This is one of the more action-packed role-playing games of the past 12 months that's been sitting on TapTap still for its pre-register, but also available through some demos on other websites. In fact, I've got one for you down in the link in the description. It's basically a real-time but also turn-based role-playing game, or you could just say inspired by both of them. Very much like the recent Noah's Heart and very vibrant in its graphics. Check it out, make sure to stay tuned for the full release in any case. At number 18, we've got Ryuko, Legend of Shadowhunter. This is a stealth-based kind of hack and slasher, but one with RPG elements and actually playable offline. It's a pretty awesome game. I'd like to think it's really mind-blowing because it's got some really good graphics and it is actually all the way free. Like, you can even play the game offline with zero internet connection. You could, however, do take care of that and get even more items with about $1, which makes the game totally free. It's really good, it's really smooth, playable with a controller, and it's got a pretty good story on top. My opinion is a 5 out of 5. Coming up behind that, we've got Three Kingdoms Legends of War. Well, pretty much like Dynasty Legends, this is a Musou style hack and slasher, but not really. Like, it's more of an action RPG slasher, or what you'd get by mixing a Musou style and a Diablo-like game. Check it out, game is totally free, it's very fine-tuning gameplay, in fact playable with a controller, it's been around since May this year, and it is all the way free, also quite a bit underrated. At number 20, we've got here something called Time Raiders, sitting on the Play Store with a 4.7 review scores, as technically I've gathered the highest rated action RPG dungeon crawling randomly generated roguelike for the past 12 months, although it's been around for only a month now. This game is a gem amongst the rest when it comes to replay value. It's probably what you get if you were to combine Tomb Raider, Diablo, and even a little bit of Devil May Cry. Just keep it in mind, this game's taking you down for almost 1 GB of space. Tomb Adventure, however, well, honestly not my favorite game today, has been sitting on the Play Store since May this year with 3.5 review scores out of 5 as an MMORPG dungeon crawler, and, well, once again in some aspects inspired by Tomb Raider games, hence the title. Well, like I said, it's not really my favorite one today, but it's actually got a good gameplay system, nice graphics, an interesting story, and it is very diverse in content as well, especially the enemies, so keep it in mind. Alright guys, listen. Moving on, we've got Ys Online, the Ark of Napishtim. This is a licensed and adapted entry of the 6th game of the Ys series, well, technically revitalizing the original plot, all translated now in English, fully voiceovered, and it's playable online. Well, technically this is, I would say, one of the more advanced typical autoplay mobile games of 2022 so far, so check it out. Especially if you've ever been a fan of Ys series, this game is indeed addicting, and it's got a pretty good online server as well. Number 23, we've got Harry Potter Magic Awakened. Now, for those of you who did miss out, this is an all-new immersive collectible card game, CCG, with MMO and RPG elements from Warner Bros. Actually. And it is said to be arriving on Android and iOS devices as well by the end of the year, and it is quite unique as opposed to the series' previous iterations. Check it out, the game is available to pre-register now, and this is what it is all about. At number 24, we've got the old 2016 highly recognized Ys 8. One I do highly recommend because it's a beautiful game with a great story and some really interesting characters to just learn about. The problem is though, this game isn't really fully out yet. It's only available for pre-register on TapTap. Just keep it in mind, it's set to be released in about a month or so, and if you've ever been a fan of the series or any Secret of Mana games in general, this is way better and definitely one to keep in mind. And last but not least, we've got yet another ARPG hack and slasher going by the name Awaken Astral Blade that seems to be taking inspiration from games like Castlevania, well, Bloodstained to be specific, in which you play as this girl who is infested by this alien parasite that seems to make her able to have some supernatural powers. Here's the trailer. This game is set to be coming to Android and iOS devices by the end of the month.